What's up, guys? It's Zach from the Pampered Pup. Today we're talking SpotOn GPS fence. SpotOn was the first GPS fence collar that hit the market. I think I first saw it around 2020, and prior to that, all the pet containment options we're viewing were wireless systems, in-ground systems. So the SpotOn fence was really the first incarnation of a GPS fence, or at least one that was usable enough that you could rely on. And SpotOn is still my favorite GPS fence to this day for a number of reasons, which we'll dig into in this video. I've put pretty much every GPS fence collar out there to the test on my own self. I've strapped it around my neck, approached the boundary to see how it works, what it would be like to use these training tools as a dog from the dog's perspective. So I hope I'm qualified enough to help you decide if the SpotOn GPS fence is right for you, your dog, in your yard. So I'm assuming you have a yard, maybe you've got some space like this here, and obviously putting a fence in is expensive. Rocks would have to move, trees I'd have to get out of the way. All of it comes down to it's a pretty complex project. Obviously a great scenario for a GPS dog fence, not only quite a bit cheaper, but quite a bit easier as well. So if you're dealing with something like that, then you're not alone, don't worry, and we'll get to the bottom of this for you. So let's start right from the beginning. Initial impressions of SpotOn. It's a very sort of sleek, modern, industrial design collar. Nice and sturdy. It feels well made. The GPS antenna right on the collar there, you want to make sure that's facing towards the sky when you put it on your dog. Comes with two sets of static correction prongs, one longer pair, one shorter pair for shorter, longer, and shorter haired dogs, respectively. And of course, you don't have to use a static correction at all, but it is there should you choose to use it. And then there's a charging bay for the collar. You just sits right in there and you plug it into a wall. It takes up to 2 hours to charge it maximum. And the collar comes in 3 sizes. So depending on the circumference of your dog's neck, you want to make sure you get the right size for them. And if you do have a giant breed, they do have collar extensions available. So look into those. So when you get your collar, the first thing you want to do is full charge, which as I said, 2 hours tops. Probably more like 1 when you first get it out of the box and it has a bit of a charge. Then you're going to want to download the SpotOn app, and then you can scan a QR code on your collar. You'll create a profile for your dog where you upload a picture of them, put in their name, breed, birth date, those types of things. And then you want to connect your collar to Bluetooth. It's pretty much good to go at that point. And then if you're going to use the optional subscription for tracking features and related features to that, and you'll sign up for that now. It's about $10 a month. I think annual plans are a little cheaper, but keep in mind you don't need to use this with SpotOn, unlike a lot of the other collars out there. It works as a fence, has that core functionality even without the subscription. Creating a fence is really easy. The easiest way is to just draw a fence on a mount, which is really fast. You can be up and running in like literally 2 minutes or less that way. But the cooler way to do it is to take your collar and go outside with your phone and walk the boundary that you want. The SpotOn will automatically drop fence posts for you as you walk. Then like a lot of them, I think it has up to 1,500 fence posts, something like that. And you can get pretty detailed with the lines of your boundary. So if you don't have, a super straight line, you can make it pretty intricate. You can also pause the fence creation to like walk around a pond, for example, or if you get some really dense brush that you don't want to walk through, and just pick up on the other side and the fence will resume. And you can further customize those fences with home zones and keep out zones. The home zones, basically you put somewhere on the fence where the collar is turned off, like your home. Or with the keep out zones, you basically can make fences within the fence. So if you have a vegetable garden that you don't want your dog playing in, you can draw a fence around that. You get the idea. And another thing that SpotOn does that a lot of the other competitor products don't do is that you can create unlimited virtual fences and save them and load them whenever you need them. You're not limited to 5 or 10 or anything like that. How the fence boundary actually works is that as your dog approaches the boundary, they'll first get an alert tone, which I believe is 10 feet away from the boundary. And that sounds like be-doo, be-doo. And then if your dog keeps going towards the boundary, I think at about 5 feet, it switches over to a warning tone, which is more like and then if your dog continues on towards the boundary, we'll get a correction at the boundary, which is either vibration by default or static correction, should you choose to use it, or a combination of the two. Personally, I like the vibration. A lot of times for dogs, it works just fine, but your mileage, it may vary, right? Now, also keep in mind that for SpotOn to work well, you really want to have at least a half an acre. That's what SpotOn recommends as a minimum size. The top end is virtually limitless. I have used it in areas smaller than that, and it still works pretty reliably, especially compared to some of the other competitor products. You definitely get more of that GPS boundary drift in those smaller settings. And along those lines, you do want to set your boundaries a little bit cautiously in areas that are potentially hazardous. So give at least 15 feet for something that's potentially hazardous. If it's like a busy road, maybe give it 30 for an extra buffer. I believe that's in line with what SpotOn recommends. And then any narrow passageways in your fence, you want to try to keep those to at least 30 feet so that your dog can walk through without getting alerts. In terms of real world use, it's pretty incredible how reliably SpotOn gives the alerts, warnings, and corrections where it should. Especially if you're in an area with a clear view of the sky, it's going to be like bang on. It's pretty cool. Now, if you get some trees that you're dealing with, or if you're in like a forested area, particularly with pine trees, you're probably going to see a little bit more boundary drift, but that's going to be the case with any GPS fence. And hands down, I'm pretty sure SpotOn is far superior in this regard to anything else I've ever used. If you do have a situation that's going to be tricky for GPS, you want to be extra aware of that boundary drift, especially around any hazards, but you're going to be in good hands with SpotOn for sure. So if you do opt for that subscription, probably the most important thing is going to be the live tracking, which is pretty awesome. You can see your dog's location on the phone. Obviously, you're going to need cell signal for that. That's how that information is transferred from the collar to your phone. So if you don't have good cell service, something to consider. And along with the live tracking, you do get escape notifications, I think low battery alerts, those types of things. And that's something that's really cool with SpotOn is you don't need any cellular service whatsoever, any Wi-Fi connection whatsoever to make a fence. It has an off-grid mode, so basically anywhere you are in the world, if you're out camping in Alaska, you can make a fence right there on the spot. So maybe not a lot of dog owners out there doing that, but if that's what you're doing, the SpotOn is designed to handle it. Now, they recently rolled out an upgrade to the battery life performance. I don't want to quote the exact numbers. Hopefully we can put them on the screen here, but it's something like somewhere between 24 hours and 48 hours. They have like a low battery mode that uses less drain. And then if you're tracking, it does use battery much more rapidly than if you're not tracking. To me, the main takeaway is that you're going to want to pretty much charge this collar overnight every time that you use it, much like you would with your cell phone, for example, but it should have more than enough to get you through the day. Now, yeah, there's no denying that $1,000 for a dog collar seems like a lot of money. Throw on top of that a subscription if you want to use it. I get it. It's expensive. But like I said earlier, if you're trying to fence in something like this, it's going to be a lot cheaper than a fence. So that's good. They also have a great straightforward training process right in the app with links to call, email, or chat with the support. And if you and your dog would like a little help getting the hang of the system, they could set you up with a Zoom call with a professional trainer. And if you don't love the SpotOn, they do have a 90-day return policy, and I believe they have accident forgiveness for up to a year. So if anything happens to it, you should be covered as long as it wasn't malicious. So if you get a property over half an acre, you're willing to commit to getting your dog understanding how the system works, which shouldn't be too bad in most cases. If you need an alternative to expensive fencing, which can be complicated to install in a yard like mine, or even if you travel with your dogs frequently and go hiking, camping, those types of things, the SpotOn can make an awful lot of sense for you. It may not be the flashiest collar out there, but to me, it is the most robust and well-designed GPS fence collar. And if you click that link in the description, you'll get the highest discount available out there. Happy to say that. And it will also support this channel at no cost to you, which truly appreciate and helps me continue making more videos like this one for you guys. Subscribe if you want more and keep those tails wagging.